Okay, here we go. Doug.
Hey,
Doug Fisher, you're color coordinated.
Hey, do you recognize me?
You have
Do
the
I look like myself?
you have the blue Team Triple G hoodie, the blue socks. Oh, I didn't even see the socks. Matching socks.
The matching socks.
You got the dark blue sweats, and then you got the color coordinated.
Remember HBO?
Yeah, HBO Boxing.
They were
established
a decent network.
1973.
Yeah, well, that's boxing.
Yeah.
Their boxing program started at 73.
And you have the color coordinated mask, facial covering.
You know the first boxing match that was broadcast on HBO?
On HBO?
In 1973? Coach might.
I might.
Because Coach used to watch those old fights.
Could it be Norton?
Yeah, it was either George Foreman Norton in Venezuela, or it was George Foreman Joe Frazier. I think it was Foreman Frazier out of Kingston, Jamaica.
Yeah, didn't HBO? They started.
That was their first.
But that was
fight that they aired.
Yeah, that was pay-per-view. I mean,
it was closed circuit.
Yeah, right. Closed circuit.
And they kind of specialized in the heavyweight boxing, right?
No.
January 22nd.
Yeah, it was early. I know it was early in the year. Yeah.
So we're practicing for everyone watching. We're practicing our social distancing. We expanded it to we're about 10 feet apart now.
At least.
Everyone's wearing facial coverings.
Hey, shout out to Kevin Costner.
Thank
you, Mr. Costner.
Thank you, Kevin. He allowed us to use the backyard again.
Outdoor studio
today. He actually got a kick out of last week. So
good.
He was gracious enough to let us use again.
He's one of my favorites.
Yeah. And he's very friendly when we see him at the track.
Yes, he is.
In great shape.
Very fast in the 400
Great shape, yeah.
He's very fast.
Yeah. We have Nina today. For anyone that has, Nina is an epidemiologist, better known as Doug Fisher's better half.
Yeah, better, much better.
So,
and there's the appearance of Josephine.
Right, Josephine has a birthday today.
16 years old today. Happy birthday, Josephine.
Happy birthday,
And
Josephine.
Happy birthday to the world's fastest 70-year-old sprinter.
Holds the world record still.
Larry Mullen.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Larry.
Mambo Chicken tuned in.
And he's 74 today. And if you want, he did a podcast this week. He's one of the writers, producers of 90210,
Yeah.
which has a huge cult following.
Yeah.
So Larry did this 2-hour podcast the other day. It was so great. He was so good. And you didn't want it to be over. Even after 2 hours.
And it was Larry and another writer producer from the show.
Chuck is the other writer, producer, and they were.
So were they just riffing off each other, or did they take questions from?
No, they had these 2 girls.
Yeah.
And then they had the guy who had the podcast. They were all like 90210 nerds. They knew every little thing about everything.
Yeah.
And Larry was so incredible.
Yeah.
He was really good. And really,
series, that was. I mean, how many seasons did they have? They had a lot.
That was one of the most popular ever.
Show.
Yeah.
And Larry even wrote music for that too.
That's
He
amazing.
wrote music. He wrote them. He produced them.
So we have getting into again. We'll answer, or Nina will try to answer any of the questions about the pandemic. But we had on the boxing news, Doug. So I think it was yesterday was supposed to be the UFC show. They got officially canceled. It was supposed to be up in Lemoore on the federal lands at the Indian Casino up there. So
Is that the Tachi Palace?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I love that name.
So Dana White was really trying hard to do that, but he got too much pressure from
Dana gave it a good effort.
Yeah.
I'm sure the majority of his fighters were at least pleased that he's trying to get them work and keep them active during this time.
Yeah.
I'm sure that he had his number of critics as well.
There were
outside of the UFC organization and even inside of it.
Well, my understanding went all the way up to the Disney Corporation, where the state of California put pressure because it's federal land. So normally he could have gone under the federal regulations, but yeah. So you're getting a compliment from Bernie Barmansall, old school.
Is that Bernie?
In the hoodie.
Yeah, this is an old school Triple G.
So my understanding is they're looking at the first week of May to try to do the first event for UFC, that Cinco de Mayo weekend.
First week of May, but
if it
in
works.
Boxing, I don't know of a single promoter
No, I don't think
who's trying to come back in May.
Yeah, I don't think on the boxing side. Boxing side, I know with
what I've heard the month? the earliest I've heard is in July.
Yep, that's what I've heard. That's what I think. DAZN is looking at July as the first fight, and one of the
July, and I'm hearing either closed like studio type stuff or like really limited fan and staff participation.
Yeah, location.
In an arena or a mid-sized venue. But I do know that promoters are really, that for that first fight back, they're really wanting to stack it. You know, so
a lot
like
of
the best prospects and
a lot of backed up fights.
Yeah.
I mean, we had to
so
cancel.
everybody who got knocked off the schedule
Right.
in March and April and May.
Yeah,
They kind of want to combine them all on like one badass
Yeah.
card, you know.
I'm here.
Talking about doing fights at the top-ranked gym in Las Vegas.
That's a smart
that would
idea.
be real smart.
Top Rank Gym, and Dana has that facility up there at the UFC.
UFC facility, state of the art,
compound,
and
yep.
they're set up for that because of that TV show.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
The Ultimate Fighter.
Also, this
Hey, Tom knows that in Germany they were doing that decades back. In Germany, the promoters would have their own gym. I'm talking like the 90s.
Sure, yeah, like
And they would,
Universum.
like when the
Sauerland.
fighters first signs
Yep.
with Universum or Sauerland or whatever,
Yep,
they'll fight in the gym.
right.
And they televise them out of the gym.
Like club shows, yeah.
Yeah, like club shows.
And WWE has that facility. Sam Garcia, he's tuned in.
Hey, what's up, Sam?
They have that WWE facility in Florida.
Hey, Sam,
As
I was
well.
watching Ruben Villa last night. I was watching an old showbox with Ruben Villa, that card from Midlands, Texas, where Michael Dutchover got his first loss due to the cut. Man, Villa looked sensational in that fight. I missed that fight, so I was watching it because I DVR'd all those show boxes or whatever. But I was watching ESPN last night. I'm sure a lot of boxing fans were. In fact, I know they were because I was following their comments on Twitter. But I watched Hadler Hearns, the Ali Frazier first fight, the second fight, the Thrilla in Manila. They showed those all in a row.
Hey, so
on
let me ask you a
ESPN.
question regarding that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Tell me who the referees were in those three fights.
The first fight, I think it was Oscar McCanty.
Yeah.
The second fight, it wasn't Carlos Padilla. Carlos Padilla was in the Philippines for the third fight.
Exactly.
The second fight, I know who it was. He was a Puerto Rican dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Tony,
Tony Perez.
you got it.
Tony
Okay,
Perez.
so let me ask you about Carlos Padilla.
Sure.
What's his nickname?
Oh, I didn't know he had a nickname. Carlos Padilla.
Sonny.
Sonny Padilla, just like Southern California.
Yeah, exactly.
The sun is out. These are Kevin Costner's palm trees
okay,
here.
So do you know how Carlos Padilla happened to become the referee of that fight?
No, other than being Filipino.
No, what happened was Eddie Futch turned down the three guys who were American referees who were recommended.
Oh.
Really?
Carlos Padilla was a guy, just a club show referee.
But he was unknown.
totally unknown.
Didn't have a history. 'Cause
But they
everybody
both-
was in love with
They,
Ali.
they both agreed with him.
Yeah, and he was
With
Carlos Padilla was an actor.
Oh, okay.
Excuse me, and then became a referee. But that was the first exposure he had. So what are some of the big fights that he
I don't know.
he became big?
He did, yeah.
Yeah, he did.
A lot of top fights in the late 70s and early 80s.
Yeah.
I know that,
He did Duran Leonard 1.
yeah. Did he really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's a choice assignment.
Yeah, and he did a lot of big
I'm
fights.
curious to know who were the referees, the American referees, that Eddie Futch turned down. And why? Like, what's the reason?
But I tell you, Eddie Futch was a genius for
Shrewd.
stopping that fight.
Yeah.
I mean, he could have been killed in the 15th round.
Yeah, but here's the thing. He had Joe Frazier in incredible shape,
Yeah.
and they had a great strategy of really working the body.
Yeah.
And I don't know how Ali got through the first fight. I don't know how either guy made it into the 13th and 14th round
Yeah.
of the rubber match, because those fights were brutal.
In Manila was,
You
that
know,
was.
Ali almost quit too.
Yeah,
I
of
mean, he was
course.
totally
He
spent.
was done. I mean, his body was beating the crap.
Yeah.
So you know, that's how Freddie Roach learned from Eddie Futch.
Yes.
You know, so Eddie Futch was his trainer, and then he became Eddie Futch's assistant, as Hedgeman Lewis did also.
Yeah, Eddie Futch had some real amazing assistants, and the recently departed Hedgeman Lewis was one of them. So was Phil Torrance, who's still with us. Yeah.
Speaking of
Brilliant
referees,
boxing mind.
condolences go out to Eddie Cotton's family.
I can't believe that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And he's one of the better referees.
he was an excellent referee.
So let me ask you about Eddie Cotton, Dougie.
Sure.
Did he ever fight for the title?
Well, I think there's two Eddie Cottons. There's Eddie Cotton, who was a light heavyweight contender, and then there was Eddie Cotton, who became a referee.
Yeah, right.
And they both boxed.
Yeah.
I think the guy who became the Eddie Cotton who became a referee, he was an amateur, and I believe he had pro fights as well. But to my knowledge, the referee Eddie Cotton never fought for a title. But there was an Eddie Cotton who was a light heavyweight contender.
Yeah, I
who
thought
did
it was
fight
the
for
same guy.
I don't think so. I think one of them. You guys, you boys and girls at home can check this out on Fox Rec. I
If
think
you
there
guys
was
can
an
check
Eddie
it out.
Cotton
Yep.
who passed away in 1990.
Ah,
That
okay.
was a standout, in the 60s and 70s, I think, at light heavyweight. But I
Right.
think the referee, Eddie Cotton, the referee, also fought at light heavyweight and may have fought a little bit at heavyweight. But you guys, whoever has access to Box Rec, they can check them.
That's where this coronavirus really gets a face, is someone that you know personally that passed away from it. So Eddie had passed away. Kevin Kelly's father passed away.
Yeah.
Didn't you say, did Hedgeman Lewis have a virus?
Yeah, complications.
Yeah.
These are all
complications.
guys that had other things.
Yeah, they were already sick, but it's a scary thing. I have an uncle who he's not in good health, who's tested positive for COVID. So of course my thoughts and prayers go out to him and his children and the rest of the family or whatever. And
Yeah.
hopefully he's he can pull through. But it's real.
It's real. Eddie did a lot of fights that we were involved with. He did a lot of the Klitschko fights,
Sure.
Vladimir's
He did
title
a Triple G
defenses,
fight.
and he did a Triple G.
He was
Right.
good with heavyweights, I thought, because he was a tall guy.
Yeah.
He was really mobile. He
Yeah.
had that boxer's footwork.
So he could separate them, especially
Yeah.
especially when Vladimir fought. You needed a big guy in there to push these
Right.
250-pound guys apart.
Yeah.
So
Okay, let me ask you this. What, Dougie,
Yeah.
and you might know this too.
Yep.
Okay, what famous up-and-coming heavyweight fought on the Thriller Manila card? He was 16-0 at the time.
up and coming, that wouldn't have been one of Ali's sparring partners.
He was, and also,
Was it Larry Holmes?
yeah. Wow, Dougie, what happened?
I knew it was Larry Holmes.
Dougie was
Everybody
just
knows
waiting.
Okay. Let me ask you this.
We got someone from St. Petersburg that says hello.
I did know it was Larry Holmes.
What was Larry Holmes' last fight? Who was it
Butterbean,
against? Yeah. And how old is Larry Holmes?
maybe 52.
Wow, see?
52?
You
Wow,
redeemed-
Doug.
Hey,
Doug
you
with the
redeemed
trivia.
yourself, Dougie.
I know Larry
And,
Holmes'
and did
story.
he knock out Butterbean?
No, he got dropped. Butterbean
Yeah.
dropped him.
Yeah.
And but it went the distance. He won a lopsided decision.
Yeah.
I think somebody was watching it with you. A well-known California official scored the fight for Butterbean. But we won't talk about it.
So was that, Doug, passing the torch from Larry Holmes to Butterbean?
No, the torch remained vacant. Neither man had the torch.
Hey, what's Butterbean's real name?
Eric Esch.
Eric Ash, that's right.
So I
Out
used
of
to,
Alabama, right?
well, he fought for.
He's the best Alabama heavyweight. He was the best heavyweight out of Alabama until
Yeah.
Deontay Wilder. They should fight.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's good, Dougie. Not too many people would know that. That was good.
Yeah, so on DAZN, my understanding is one of the first fights back will be, remember they have scheduled for April 17th.
Oh, right. Maurice Hooker and
Hooker and Prograis.
Prograis,
Yeah.
right.
And the reason I know that is Cecilia Brecus is supposed to be on that show
Right.
as well against Jessica McCaskill.
She was
So that's
in
a- that's
camp
a great
in
show.
Big Bear, and so she stayed in Big
She
Bear.
stayed in Big Bear, yeah, instead of
How do
flying.
you keep from overtraining?
Well, I mean, she's not in, training camp mode,
Yeah,
but she's
yeah.
just staying, keeping her weight down,
Yeah.
keeping her cardio up and spirits up, and
Yeah.
she felt like if she flew all the way to Norway, and Norway's pretty much on lockdown. That would just like
Right.
kill any conditioning that she had.
Right.
So
And was
that's
she a little bit worried if she leaves, there might be some complications and
coming back. Yeah, the whole thing. Yeah. So she's dedicated, and at that time you never really knew when they're going to open things up. But
Right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. Sam Garcia's asking, what do you think about Devin Haney's recent comments?
Oh, I'll never lose to a white boy? Well,
Didn't Bernard say that?
yeah, exactly. It was unoriginal. It's not very creative. It's unoriginal. It's narrow-minded. I was embarrassed for him. I'm just kind of like...
I didn't. You know what? I didn't.
It was
I didn't hear
ugly
that.
when Bernard did it, but Bernard's kind of like an old dude who did
Old
time
school.
in prison.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then he fought.
And he actually had an opponent that he was fighting. He wasn't just putting it out there like no white boy can ever
like
beat
in
me or
general.
whatever.
Yeah.
It triggered some people. I wasn't offended. You know what I mean? I wasn't gonna brand him a racist. I thought it was in poor taste, and I thought it was unoriginal.
What was the context? Was it an interview or?
Yeah, it
just,
was an interview. Yeah, I think he was being interviewed. Might have been interviewed by might have been one he did with I think it might have been Eddie Hearn, or he was being interviewed, and I think somebody brought up Luke Campbell.
Oh, okay.
Who's
I got
a British
you.
dude,
Yeah.
white British dude.
Right. Okay.
And I think he just blurted that out or whatever. You know, I can't keep up with all.
It's just immaturity.
Yeah, he's 21, right?
There's my
He's young.
facial
If you
covering.
if Tom or Dave Porter around me 24/7 when I was 21, you would hear a lot of outrageous crap. You know what I mean?
when you were
Most of
21.
it
Yeah.
embarrassing.
How about when you were 41? That's
Better.
That's a long time.
A little
ago,
more
right?
improved.
And then Bernard ran into Joe Smith, right?
It gets better. I mean, no, seriously, like 21 to 31 to 41, you do mature and everything. I guess Nina did know me when I was 21 years old.
Yeah.
1991. Good year. No, but I'm just saying, young people are going to say some stupid stuff. But he's got to be careful. He's a public figure being a...
Normally, Devin has a very good image, good reputation, a very likable guy, intelligent.
He's got some cleanup to do.
And his father, Bill,
Yeah.
seems to put him on the right path.
Yeah.
So I didn't actually see those comments, so that didn't.
He's got some
it was-
Yeah, I would love to see him fight Ryan.
Yeah, that'll happen.
It will.
Ryan
How could it
Garcia.
not happen?
That's a good fight.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
I mean,
You know,
both guys need to do something, though. You know what I mean? Neither guy's actually beaten. And if you look at the ring rankings, they're in the top 5, or both of them are in the top 5 or 6. But neither of them has actually defeated a legit top 10 lightweight. I mean, who's the best guy that Devin Haney has defeated?
Yeah.
He's beaten some solid guys, just like Ryan Garcia has, but none of them's like a legit contender.
Yeah.
They're not like Teofimo Lopez, who at least has that knockout over Richard Comac.
Yeah, that was a good.
Who was a
That was a
top
good
cat.
performance. Yep.
Yeah, so they're behind Teofimo, and they, but they're young. They're both young, as is Teofimo Lopez. But unlike Teofimo Lopez, they don't have a legitimate scalp on their record yet. I'd like to see them both get a scalp or two and then fight each other. And then their meeting has real meaning.
Speaking of ring ratings, Doug, I was cleaning out my office, or cleaning up the office and organizing, and came across a Ring magazine with Floyd on the cover from I think it was March 2013.
Oh yeah. I think all of our covers in 2013 had
For
either
Floyd.
Floyd or Manny Pacquiao on the cover, but mostly Floyd.
But the interesting thing is, for those casual boxing fans that seem to like to pick apart the guys that Triple G fought,
Yeah.
if you look at the top 10 ring ratings,
Yeah.
I'm going to post this later today,
You should.
and I'll tag you in it. He knocked out 4 of the top 10.
Yep.
Proxa was in the top 10,
Yep.
who was his first opponent on HBO.
Rosa was the European champion.
European
And he
champion.
had some solid wins under his belt.
Yeah, people like to try to forget about that. And then Daniel
Tom,
Gill.
who was he supposed to fight?
He was supposed to fight Pirog, who
There
was in
you
the
go.
top. He was, I think, he was
It
rated
gonna
number
be
5.
A title his HBO
Yep.
debut was supposed to be a middleweight title
Right,
unification. bout.
WBA and WBO, because Pirog had just knocked out Danny Jacobs,
That's right.
and nobody wanted to fight him
Nope.
voluntarily.
Yep.
So him risking his title to fight Pirog, and then Pirog got injured. But Pirog was in the top 10. Naturally, Sergio Martinez at that time was considered, and well-deserved, considered the best middleweight.
Well, I think Martinez was the Ring Magazine
Yeah,
champion.
absolutely. He was a champion, considered the best middleweight. We tried to make that fight.
Going to fight Triple G. Even Lou DiBella went on record saying, "I'm not putting." After the Macklin fight, I think DiBella said,
Yeah.
"I'm putting."
That's right.
He said it.
He said it.
He said it. I'm not making this up. He
No.
said, "I'm not putting my aging champion in with that monster.
right.
I'm not doing it."
Yeah, so if they don't want to make the fights, it's hard to actually make the fights. So we tried to get the champion. Then Daniel Geale was rated number 2 at the time.
And Daniel Geale at one time had 2 world titles.
Yeah,
he was a unified champion
when he beat Felix Sturm in Germany.
That's right.
And that leads to the number 3 was Felix Sturm, who did anything
We know
possible
about that.
to get out of the mandatory for over 2 years.
Well, that whole situation was one of the reasons why Golovkin wanted to get away from Universum.
Right,
Because he didn't feel supported by his own
Right.
promoter in that fight happening.
but even after they were both
Even after Sturm
away
left.
from Universum, it still couldn't
Yeah.
make that fight.
Yeah, I know.
Then who else was in the top 10? Then Matthew Macklin, who we know how that result was. That was a KO. He was in the top 10. Martin Murray.
He was actually Matthew Macklin was in Ring Magazine's top 5
Yeah,
because his only losses there was Felix Sturm, and most of us thought he won that fight.
right.
And then he challenged Martinez, and he was stopped late, but he gave Martinez hell.
Yep, that's
He
right.
was very competitive.
Well, he knocked him
so
down.
We knew he was a top cat.
We talked about that on that WBC promoters call with Lou,
yeah.
where and Eddie, thought that Martin had won the fight.
Oh, yeah.
As did I. But
Same here.
I think he knocked him down twice in Argentina, but only got credit for one knockdown. And
Oh, you're talking about the
Martin
British
Murray.
guy.
Martin Murray.
You're not talking about Macklin, you're talking about Murray.
Oh, right. Murray over in Argentina against
Yeah,
Sergio.
Murray, he arguably won that fight.
Because
Yeah,
Martin
absolutely.
Murray was also in the top 10, and
Yes, he was.
stopped him.
Yeah.
Then Peter Quillen was in the top 10 at the time, and we tried to
Richard
make that
Schaefer
fight.
wasn't going to make that.
I think you have intimate knowledge about that, but they wanted no part of
They didn't want that.
Triple G at the time as well. So there's your top 10, and I'm not sure who else people wanted him to fight at that time if you're not looking at the Ring Magazine top 10 ratings.
Yeah.
So I'll post that so people have a better understanding
So I
of
was
the
reading
situation.
They said that the third fight with Canelo is going to be at MGM Grand. I read that.
Well, MGM has been very happy with the last 2 fights up there, so
No,
we'll
but
see.
but would it be at the MGM Grand or the?
At T-Mobile. People are kind of gravitating back to the MGM because the logistics for T-Mobile.
It's easier.
They don't like the casinos. Don't like the people leaving the property and then potentially going somewhere else, going to dinner.
Right.
Things
That's
like
what
that.
happens.
At the MGM Arena, people leave. They go in the casino. They go to Wolfgang Puck's. They go, to the restaurants there. They stay on property, which is a much better
Right.
situation for them.
So what happened about? I was reading a couple weeks ago. They're talking about Texas for the third fight.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables in that fight. You can't really talk about dates or locations or anything like that. So a lot of speculation on it. So but if and when that fight happens, I know it's going to be that's the fight that DAZN has been trying to make for quite a while.
DAZN needs it, and boxing needs it. I think boxing, when
The sport in general,
boxing's
you're
allowed
right.
to come back as an arena sport,
Right.
people can pack in an arena
Yeah.
for stadium. They're going to need fights that are worthy of those big venues.
I think it's
So
going
that's
to.
Canelo Triple G3. That's the third fight between Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder.
And how about Lomo and Lopez? I mean, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
I mean, that's the one I'm anticipating.
See, here-
Right, Madison Square Garden. Perfect.
Yeah, what a fight that is.
Here's the challenge, Doug, on this, just on the overall promotional boxing situation. So, a lot of these fights and purses had been negotiated prior to the crisis shutdown. So,
Right.
naturally, a lot of those big fights with big ticket gates,
Yes.
those economics were factored into the boxers' purses
Right.
or
They're
guarantees.
anticipating 20,000.
Right.
You know.
So now, if you don't have the live gate and theoretically less sponsorships, now you don't have the same financial budget to pay the boxers. But the boxers are saying, well, it's the same fight. I don't care if it's on TV or in front of nobody. It's the same fight, same
That's
risk.
a lot of boxers' perspective too.
I want
Like,
the
no.
same. I want the same money,
Yeah.
and so there's going to be some challenges there.
Well, those
making
fighters
fights.
might not
But then they might
come
not
back
fight.
right away. Then they might have to sit out and be on vacation.
Well, there's going to be a lot of adjustments.
Yeah,
That's the next thing is that
but
you
not
know,
for the young guys.
if people want to fight, they'll do. That's what we did with Triple G. I mean, he was fighting 4 times a year. We were going to Monte Carlo.
Yeah.
He fought in Ukraine. He fought in Panama, and he was knocking guys out, making title defenses. But you know, he wasn't getting paid millions of dollars. But his rise in popularity,
Yeah.
ticket sales, sponsorships, everything was attributable to that.
Yeah.
And that's how.
So there's
you
an
know,
opportunity if you are a top contender or a title holder
Yeah.
that was under the radar like Triple G was in
Yeah.
2012.
Yep.
If you're willing to come back and you're willing to take a haircut, take a reduced purse, and you're willing to be active, you can make up ground while all these big shots are sitting out waiting for the big crowds to come back so they can get paid their contract minimums, which are crazy. You know?
There's more for a boxer's value for their career in addition to just the purses. I mean, look at like LeBron, for example. You know, he's in LA. Naturally, he's getting paid a lot of money to play for the Lakers, but
Right.
you know, opens up a lot of doors from the entertainment field. You know, out here sponsorships.
He has his own
and
production company.
his own production company, and the same thing. Like I was saying, what we did with Triple G is that you know he might not have been making the biggest purses at that time, but you know we were building. We were building his
Building a
ticket
brand.
sales, building his brand, building his
Building a brand.
merchandise sales, and continuing to knock out guys and making title defenses where he got to 20 title defenses to tie the great Bernard Hopkins for middleweight title.
You know what was
defenses.
so awesome about that run?
Huh.
Is you just saw it happen in real time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every fight, there was this incremental rise
Huge, yeah.
in name recognition.
Yeah.
And it took a long time for him to like cross over to like just your everyday schmuck that you talk to at the grocery store, right?
Right.
But within the boxing world, that rise, just in the year of 2013, because
Yep.
he fought 4 times,
That's right.
the difference between
Because in
him being on like an undercard or in a co-feature underneath Mikey Garcia, in the small room, to headlining the small room still with Curtis Stevens, later
that's
in the
right.
year.
Yeah.
But there was a ton of excitement about going into that fight, and then after the fight, his very next fight at Madison Square Garden, he's not in the small room.
It was
He's
Daniel
in the big
Gill.
room.
Daniel Gill. Yeah.
He's
in
fighting
that.
Daniel. I was there.
Yep.
That's when Abel gave me that hoodie.
Oh yeah. That's.
How would his fight at StubHub?
Well, that was explosive.
That was.
That was always going to be a one-off.
Marco-
He did return there with Vanes, but that was a special
Marco
circumstance.
Rubio. We broke the
He was
ticket
already
sales
too big
record.
for the StubHub.
Yeah.
No, it was completely sold out 2 months before the fight.
Yeah.
We had to add bleachers. The first time
That tells you about West Coast boxing.
First time StubHub ever needed
power.
bleachers for to increase their capacity, and we sold out the bleachers.
Yeah. That was fun.
What, do you have other questions, Dave?
Well, I have something that Samir has a podcast,
Oh yeah, Samir Azizi, the Mad Translator. Shout out to him.
and he is really good.
When he's in LA, he does much better camera work and production than
No,
than I
he's
do.
really good.
Yeah, he's a good producer.
This one guest he had was Kurhan Bhatia.
Yeah.
That was this week. And they
Correct.
were talking a lot about how do you set up the cameras and the microphones. It was really interesting.
Yeah, he used to be with HBO.
Kuron was
Yeah.
with HBO as a young guy.
Uh-huh.
He is really sharp. He's got his own podcast, and you should look it up. He also had on Claudia Trejos,
Claudia's great.
she is smart. She
Yeah.
is really smart, and she's got a lot more depth than you think, and she's really good. She knows her stuff, and she was talking about her meditation and about, how she got going. The whole thing was really interesting, and Samir's doing an incredible job, and we all feel responsible.
Yeah, he came out. He took the wherewithal and came out and met us at the track.
He's like our grandchild.
Yeah.
And he is doing a really good job. He also had Cynthia Conte on.
Right. Cynthia is
I haven't
always
seen that one yet.
always entertaining.
And
Cynthia.
has her own podcast now.
Yeah.
She is really good. She is really good.
Her first guest was Bob Arum.
Yeah.
How awesome is that?
Oh, that was great.
And it
Yeah,
was
Bob
2
has
hours.
Yeah.
Bob has lots of stories. I can sit and listen to Bob, talk about old stories for
Same here.
hours.
Same here.
Samir had it hasn't come out yet, Dave, but Samir did an interview with Sergey Boachuk
Oh, cool.
yesterday, in Russian, but he's going to do English subtitles. So
That's
he's gonna release it here in the English market and in the Russian speaking market. So I think that's a very smart idea.
Ouch.
Boachuk also stayed here in LA to continue to train. So
So
we'll
what do
see.
you think, Tom's going to happen going forward with club shows like your Avalon show? With this coronavirus thing.
That's an interesting question, Dave. There's two ways it can go. They can either open up events and limit the capacity, like 500 people or 1,000 people, which would allow us to do it.
Yeah.
Or they can just say, like with Doug, what you were referring to is just the boxers, their teams, everyone gets tested, everyone's licensed, and naturally the commission and the officials and the doctors and the ambulances, and that would kill a club show like the Avalon. But if they limit it to like 1,000 people total, then we would be able to put that on. Although I'm sure any shows going forward, we would have masks, we'd have sanitizers, I could even see when you go to the airport, them checking temperatures when you walk in.
Oh, yeah.
To different events, not just boxing in general. If you go to a concert, if you go to a NBA at some point, when Nina, that's kind of an interesting question for you. Is like when they start opening up, businesses again. I hear so in Texas, I guess the state parks are going to open tomorrow, which I actually don't think is a bad idea. If everyone practices social distancing, if they're wearing their masks, if they're being responsible, I think people need to get out, get fresh air, get some exercise, and a state park would be something they could do. And then just depending on how that goes, I heard that other businesses like restaurants will slowly start opening the end of next week, like barbershops and things of that natures. In Texas, that's what I had heard. So the main thing is we can't, if there's a second wave of then that's going to really put us back. So I think people really still have to be conscious. If you're going to the store, if you're going to the bank, if you're getting gas, whatever the essential services is now, I think people are wearing their masks. The good thing is and I know you can talk about this, is I think the masks now have become a socially accepted thing, whereas before it was kind of like isolated, and now it's like everyone's wearing a mask. So now it's actually gives everyone a better feeling about going outside.
Yeah, I think some of the worry though is that people will think it's safe to be closer to people than they should because they both have masks on, and given that these masks are only somewhat effective,
Right.
That's probably still not a good idea. So we need to kind of do all these things together.
Can't give them a false sense of security, right?
Right. That's been part of the worry. It'll be really interesting to figure out how we're going to open things back up. I mean, I think all the things that you talked about, temperature screening, the mask, extra cleaning, all that is helpful, but of course none of it's 100%.
Right. That's right.
And it's very... I'm glad, to be honest, I'm not the one who has to make all these decisions because I think it's very tricky and there's going to be risks to all of it. One of the things that I'm concerned about in terms of businesses is that we have very little enforcement to protect employees.
Right.
And so I'm reading more and more now about employees in different settings that really aren't able to protect themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They're being expected to work close to other people. Sometimes they're told, oh, you should come to work, you probably don't have it. They're not always given the equipment that they need, like masks and stuff like that. So I really would like to see more enforcement in employers so that they're not putting their staff in precarious situations. Because, of course, if people are going to work if they need to work to feed their families, and I'm afraid that shouldn't have to be a life or death.
It was nice to see. I actually went to the grocery store today, probably the first time in over 2 weeks. It was nice to see all the employees wearing masks because about 2 weeks ago, last time I was there, they weren't. And I think that's important that, like you said, that the employers that are requiring the employees come to work, especially the hospitals. I mean, those are the people we feel the worst about. The nurses, the doctors. I mean, they need to have the really specialized protective equipment. But it's nice to see everyone wearing the mask. But like you said, you can't have a sense of security, a false sense of security, even if you have the mask. Someone asked, does it help to put alcohol on masks? Does that either to sterilize it?
Depending on the type of mask you have, there's different ways to clean it.
Uh-huh.
Regular cloth masks you can wash with soap and water, detergent water, any of those things will clean it For the other types of masks, to be honest, I have not heard alcohol, but there are some different approved ways to clean some of the other types of masks that I am not familiar with.
Okay.
Cloth mask, the best thing is detergent and water, soap and water.
Doug was doing his jump roping over there.
I'm
You're
figuring
getting
it out
better.
now. See how these things? I think they're supposed to be out like that.
That could be.
You see how they are? They're on the ends.
Yeah.
The way they are.
Oh yeah, that makes it easy.
So I think if I have it out like this, I hold my hands out like this, it feels a little weird to me. But it makes more
Oh,
sense.
you're doing good. And jumping on Kevin Costner's grass here. I mean, he keeps it very well manicured.
That's how we do
The
it.
gardener must come here like 2-3 times a week.
Of course, only
Do
the
this.
best.
Yeah.
Mr. Dances with Wolves.
Oh, you got it down now, Doug.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have any other words of wisdom, Dave? Anything
I do.
on your side?
Yeah, I think you should take this whole time and make it into a positive, which you can do it.
Yeah.
If you get your whole act together, you got time to think. I think all of this is all going to be good in the long run if you get through it. I find myself exercising more now, and I do it around my house. I go this 1.25 mile, a little route up a hill, down a hill, and I do it I try to do it 3 times a day, and then also if you really watch the way you eat, drink a lot of water. It's real easy to eat more now, but if you really concentrate on it and you want to really watch yourself, and the other thing is that you can really get things done that you couldn't do before.
That you don't normally have time to do, right?
Yeah, and now you're sort of looking for things to do.
You got to look at that perspective.
And you can make it all into a positive, and you just want to be happy, think pure, be positive, and keep your distance and be careful. And I think it's going to give everyone a lot more discipline going forward, because it does take discipline, and it takes mental discipline. But I think if you get a game plan about, you want to just maybe have an outline of how you do your exercising every day. And exercising, all you have to do is just like walking, just like roll out of bed, put on some shoes that are good for you, and go for a walk for 30 minutes. That's all you need. It's great. Do it a couple, 2 or 3 times a day. Anyone can do it.
And keeping mentally positive and physically fit, that helps. I would imagine, that helps with the immune system also, is trying to fight the virus. If people are staying active, if they're eating right, and just keeping a mental positive
also
outlook.
Love everybody. If you've noticed, people really are friendlier.
They seem friendlier, yeah. Like everyone's in this together, yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully that's.
And
all
if
good.
you're not having peaceful, loving feelings, and you're having a hard time thinking positive, reach out to somebody. Don't just stew in your own mental juices in your little room or apartment or your house or whatever. Like, we need to isolate to stem the spread of this virus, but for some people, isolation leads to desolation.
Yep.
So don't be afraid to step outside. Like Coach said, go for a walk. You can put your mask on during your walk. I don't think you need it if you're by yourself and you're not around anyone. I don't think you need the mask. Have it with you. In case you interact with somebody, you need to talk to somebody. But you don't have to jog or ride your bike or walk alone with the mask on if that bothers you.
And don't attack Doug on Twitter.
Yeah, like
when you're bored, when you're sitting at home and nothing better to do.
Well,
don't.
last Wednesday, I welcome the Twitter nutcakes. I like to fight. Last Wednesday, Nina and I and the girls and our dog, we went to the park. It was open.
It was
They're
open.
not charging you, but it's
open space.
And it's not a lot of people there. There's some families there, but we're all way far apart. So each family is its own little universe there, but it's so healthy because the weather's so nice out here in Southern California. We had days of rain, so the air is clean, and there's flowers and vegetation and everything, fruit and stuff growing off of trees everywhere. So it's beautiful. And you get out there and you see the ducks on the pond, and you see little kids on
the wildlife
hills
have really
and
benefited
tricycles.
from this shutdown. You see a lot more wildlife, see more birds,
See a lot of fish.
fish. I heard there was an eagle. They nested,
Really?
and gave
Rare. Bald eagle?
bald eagle,
Rare.
that's what they said.
They're not just rare; they're endangered.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, you get out there, it takes you out of your whatever funk you're in. It gets you out of that. Sometimes you need to break that funk by getting the hell out. So don't be afraid. Don't worry about the stigma of leaving your house. You know, you're not going to a party where you're going to be dancing up close to people. So I'm just saying, get out of your house, get some fresh air every now and then. That helps your mental outlook and your spirit.
Our
Well,
girl.
You should do it every day. Not once in a
Absolutely.
while.
Yeah, every day.
You should really. I mean, it's very important to get out to clear your brain. And if you've noticed, everyone acknowledges everyone now. People, everyone sort of waves a little high. Everyone's in the same boat. So.
Yeah.
And they're driving friendly. Although you gotta be careful. There's higher speed, so you still gotta drive carefully. No texting.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the mental health impacts of this can be huge, and so we can take them for the positive, especially we have the means to do that, or it can be a negative. And so even the word, we probably shouldn't have, the public health community shouldn't have used the word social distancing. It really should have been physical distancing.
Physical, right.
Connect with people, whether it's on the phone or Zoom or however it is that we can see and connect with people. And that outdoor space I think is really vitally important. We need the vitamin D, we need the air, we need that sense of renewal that comes with spring. And so I really do encourage people to do the same. Of course, you have to obey whatever the laws are in your particular area. Like these parks are open. There was, parts of it. Of course, the kids didn't play on the playground equipment. We didn't do anything that wasn't allowed. And even in this context, we haven't been within 6 feet or we're pretty much staying.
In fact, we're going 10 feet
away from each
yeah.
other. My kids both have birthdays this month. We have not had anybody over. There's no neighbors. There's none of that. But we are also realizing that we really need to take care of all of our own mental health and each other in this time. And some of that is being active and being outdoors.
So our girl Nancy from Supreme Boxing and WBC, she says hello. And
WBC's been doing a great job. They have a whole series of like these Zoom meetings. You were part of one with promoters.
With the promoters,
I was part of one with the media. They did a one-on-one with Mike Tyson. I haven't seen it yet, but I hear it's really fascinating.
Mike's always entertaining. Yeah.
Just quick commercial here. Speaking of Mike Tyson, on the cover of the next issue, which we'll be putting to bed this week, mythical matchup, Mike Tyson versus Tyson Fury. We got great stuff from both Fury and Mr. Tyson.
Oh, great.
The next magazine after that is a retrospective of the Gotti Ward trilogy.
Okay.
Got some great special editorial guests and writers for that one, as well as from the Ring archives. And then the magazine after that, Mike Tyson. Retrospective on Mike Tyson's amazing career. And obviously, Ring magazine has 35 years worth of archival photos and articles and tidbits that we can pack in there along with new content. So if you're not subscribed to the Ring magazine, do it now. You'll get all 3 of those magazines in succession. And if you subscribe to the print, you automatically get a subscription to the digital. So you don't have to wait for it. The digital comes out real quickly. If you're living in Colombia somewhere or the UK and it takes a while for the physical magazine to get there and you just can't wait and you want to read the cover story, you could read the digital edition. And if you're not a subscriber and you subscribe right now just for the digital, it's 30 days free.
There you go.
You can read the current issue.
Can't beat that. 30-day free trial.
Yeah, 30 days.
And then you get access.
All the back issues.
There you go.
Going back to 2013. A lot of good stuff.
Anything with Tyson is always exciting. He was definitely one of my favorite fighters of all time. He's about the same age as me.
Name.
I grew up with him when he won the heavyweight championship at 20 years old.
Yeah.
Definitely could relate to him. And then Mike really, just being such a devastating puncher and really entertainer. People would go and they knew it's going to be over in 1 or 2 rounds, but they didn't care. They just wanted to be there at the event.
Matter of fact, on ESPN last night, before they showed the Ali Frazier trilogy, they showed some Tyson fights. And so they showed Tyson beating Berbick for that first world title, the WBC belt. Shout out to the WBC. And then they showed his fight with Larry Holmes. Yeah. And then I think with Michael Spinks.
Okay.
And in total, that's about 5 rounds. But they still felt like complete events.
And big events.
You still get the same satisfaction of watching Tyson take out Berbick in 2 rounds.
Big heavyweight championship
Ali
events.
Frazier fight 15.
Right.
Yeah.
And Mike really reinvented himself.
Yeah.
I saw his show a few years back when he came here to LA, did the show, and he's really an entertaining guy.
Yeah, yeah. So salute to Mike Tyson and the WBC. Thank you, Nancy, for joining us. The Four Kings, that's another special edition that we recently produced and published. And if you were a subscriber, you got that as an addition to your monthly magazine. If you're not a subscriber, you can go to the Ring shop on ringtv.com and you can select it within our e-catalog and you can buy it and it'll ship out to you, and it's good stuff. If you're a fan of the 80s, and I think it's like, for me, it's like the most special decade of boxing because I was a kid growing up, into a young adult during the 1980s. But Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, Marvelous Marvin Hagler, and Tommy the Hitman Hearns are four very special, iconic, legendary fighters.
That was a round robin tournament, and that was like Superfly. You could mix and match any of those guys, and you would have a great show. Yep.
The Superfly is the Four Kings of the last decade because Carlos Cuadras, Srisakeso Rungvisai, Juan Francisco Estrada, and the great Chocolatito,
yes.
Ramon Gonzalez,
Mm-hmm.
they all fought each other.
Right.
And they're going to keep fighting each other too.
Yep. It was.
So you gotta love them little dudes.
And they're always in exciting fights.
Always.
Just like Hagler, Hearns,
right.
and Leonard, and
yeah,
all those guys.
They live up to the hype, and that's what makes new fans.
Yep.
The hype drives people to the event, but the event has to deliver.
Yep.
When they deliver in that ring, they make new fans.
Absolutely.
And it just helps the sport. So, salute to them little guys. But Ramon Chocolatito Gonzalez, he's our cover star for this month's issue.
For this month, right.
And if you're not a subscriber, subscribe now. And if you don't have the money to spend, just subscribe to the digital edition only. You get it for
30-day free
Check
trial.
it out. It's all there for you.
There you go. When you're at
You
home.
can read it on your phone.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to sign off. Nina, great to have you on the show again.
Thank you. Take care of yourselves and each other. And I want to say one thing. If you get that stimulus check and you got a regular money coming in still, I really encourage people to give it to good causes. There are so many people out there who are struggling to eat. There's food banks that are struggling. There's different organizations that are struggling. So, I think that stimulus check is so needed for many people, but we're fortunate enough to get our full salary. I think if you're in that position, find an organization in your area or somewhere else that you can give that money to for people who really need it, that $1,200 and more, and have money to get it.
That's a great idea. A lot of people are donating some of the PPE equipment to the hospitals and things of that nature. So those are always good causes. Dave?
Be happy, exercise, eat right,
drive safe,
be positive, and I would call friends that you haven't talked to for a long time just to see how
call
they're
or
doing.
text. Yeah, absolutely.
And Nina, thanks a lot for coming.
All right, signing off.
Wash your hands.
Socially distance. I got the one of the Triple G Jordan shirts on today,
Nice.
and we'll see you guys later.